This week, the images of children forcibly separated from their parents at the border totally dominated the political landscape and forced the president to change course, something we have not seen often. NewsHour special correspondent Jeff Greenfield joins us now from Santa Barbara. Jeff, a messaging or consistency issue here?
You know, it looks on the surface as though this administration is kind of lurching from one position to another. There is no policy, there is one, but we can change it, now we're changing it. But I would argue that there is underneath this a very strong, consistent message, literally from the day he announced he was running for president now 3 years ago, to the inaugural address, to the travel ban, to his tweets and speeches this week. And that is, them, the foreigners, are hurting us, Americans. They're sending bad people into the country, they're committing crimes, they're infesting us, that's his word. They're conjuring up trade deals that leave our workers out of work. And what's interesting is apparently the president has decided that this message politically is potent enough to make it a key issue in his midterm fight to keep Republicans in control. Not the economy, which is looking pretty good, but this issue. And when you look at the way he frames it, just even today saying, you know, when they come into our country, we don't need courts, we don't need judges, just kick them out. He's doubling down on the idea that his people will turn out and vote out of a very strong belief that the president is right in saying that we are being, I will not use the word he might use, that we are being traduced, that we are being mistreated by people from other lands.
How much of this is the emotional power of the imagery that we've been seeing over the past week?
I don't think there's any question that when you see children and parents being forcibly separated, that's, talk about a picture being worth 1,000 words. That picture's worth probably 10,000 words. I do notice that Trump's supporters are trying to make the argument, at least some of their more militant media friends, that it's fake. It's a big lie. The pictures are photoshopped. And it's why I think that Time magazine picture of that crying young girl, who it turns out was not separated from her family, is going to be a very powerful argument on the part of Trump supporters to say, don't believe those pictures that are making you upset about all those kids. It's really not real. I think it was Ann Coulter who said those kids are child actors. So you can see how desperate almost the Trump people are to say, don't buy into these pictures, because they know that these pictures have the capacity, I think, to change minds and to motivate voters.
You know, besides the imagery, it seems that Trump supporters are actually cohesing around the fact that their leader is under attack in a way that could affect this notion of any blue wave or something happening in the midterms. They seem more determined now to go support their president because they feel he's being unfairly targeted.
The president's approval ratings among Republicans is now touching 90%. The only Republican president who came close to that was George W. Bush in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. And I think you're quite right. It's a theme that you and I have talked about often, that the president has succeeded in convincing his supporters, if you hear something bad about me, it's a lie, double down on your support.
What about the people who are carrying out the administration's policies? Earlier this weekend, there was the incident where Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the press secretary, used the press secretary account on Twitter to talk about how she was asked to leave a specific restaurant in Lexington, Virginia.
You know, this is one that measures, I think, just how emotional our politics is. I've heard people say, well, look, Sarah Sanders or the housing secretary are enunciating outrageous policies. They have no right to a peaceful meal at a restaurant, or for that matter, a peaceful night at home. We'll go follow them home and picket them. The problem with that is, who gets to decide what policies are so outrageous that they deprive you of the normal, after work habits? In other words, suppose a pro-life group says this person is espousing a view on abortion which is leading to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent unborn children. That person has no right to a peaceful night at home either. And when you start assigning to yourself the power to rule positions out of bounds to that extent, you're headed down, I think, a very dangerous road. But I'm sure, a lot of people out there are going to say, I'm sorry, Sarah Sanders lies, and she's promulgating an idea that's separating kids from their parents. What right does she have to a peaceful night at home? The question is, as lawyers like to say, what's the slippery slope you're heading down on?
All right, Jeff Greenfield joining us from Santa Barbara. Thanks so much.
Okay.